So let's talk first. Let's get started. Starting recording. So what is a programming language? So a language, essentially a programming language, is a language that is used to talk to a computer. No different than English, Mandarin, Spanish, Japanese. It's a very specific language that allows us to speak to a computer, and this computer can tell us stuff back. So the language makes the computer execute instruction and perform specific tasks. So this is what us writing codes. We're going to write some code. We're going to tell the computer to execute that code. And then whatever instructions we told the computer to execute, will execute. And then usually they'll tell us something. They'll give us an output, or an output of that. Let's talk about, let's go into values. So now this isn't values like, what are your core values or anything like that. Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of actual JavaScript. We're going to start writing code right now. So with that, values. So values, every value is a piece of data or data type, and that data type determines how that value behaves. So some values are numbers, example, 86. Some values are text, hello world. Some values are functions, which is just a block of code, a set of instructions. So if you think of values, like what's the value of your first name? So the value of my first name is a text, and the value of it is Tom. What's the value of my age? Your age might be 22 or 34 or something like that. Also, it's like, and with functions, like what's the value of a Caesar salad dressing recipe? Like what's that value look like? Well, if I gave you the Caesar salad dressing recipe, it'd be like a set of instructions of how to actually make a Caesar salad dressing. So let's jump into REPL. So in here, so this is our Slack channel, code Platoon, Bootcamp Prep. At the very top of our Bootcamp Prep Slack channel, I've got the Zoom link, which is here, and also the REPL invite. So if I click that, which you should have all clicked that, I sent it out in a link. I also posted it in the Slack channel. You should come to a classroom, a Bootcamp Prep classroom. Has everybody seen this before? So this is where we're going to be doing, here's all these challenges. We're going to go through some of them. We're not going to hit them all today. We're not going to hit them all tonight. But yeah, so this is REPL. And I'm going to click here. And I'm just going to create a new REPL. So again, what I did was just click new REPL. And now I get to select what language I want to write in. And today, or in this Bootcamp Prep, we're going to be learning JavaScript. So I'm going to click JavaScript, and it automatically gives me a name for it. I'm going to say July 7th Bootcamp Prep. That's just what I want to call it right now. So I said create it, and now it's opening a REPL. We don't really need to know. It comes with an index.js, and so we can write our code here. So in the middle is where we're going to write our code, and then on the on the right hand side, this is known as the terminal. This is what our code. This is where our code is going to output certain values. So let's go back to values. So every value is a piece of data, like 86 and hello world. So I'm just going to say, 86 and run it. So it says 86 right here. That's the value of 86. And if any time I'm typing stuff and you want to ask a question of like how I did something, feel free to stop. or just be like, hey, I have a question. Then we have hello world. So hello world. And it only executed that portion. Let's talk about, so those are values. Another like function would be like, what's the value of the area of a triangle? So the value of the area of a triangle is the algorithm, like what is it, half base times height or something like that. So, yeah. So we have values, which is just a piece of data. And now I just want to talk about printing and getting user values. So JavaScript has a built-in method. We're going to be talking about this a lot tonight, these built-in methods that takes whatever you give it and it prints it out to the screen. So if I come over here and I say console, so it .log and wrap this hello world and run it, it says the same thing. So we're going to be using this console.log a lot throughout today and throughout the rest of the course. So console, it's like saying, hey, in this console over here to the right, log it, log whatever is wrapped in these parentheses. So console.log parentheses log to the console. If I run it, it should say hello world and log to the console to the right in the console. All right. So let's talk about variables. So variables are named labels or identifiers for storing values. Remember from math class, like mx plus b, like x and y coordinates, like what's the value of x and what's the value of y? So x and y would be considered variables. And there are three ways to declare or create a variable in JavaScript. And it's not just JavaScript. Every programming language has, I would say, variables, everyone that I know of at least. But JavaScript is specific on how we declare variables or create a variable. So this is the first one, var, which stands for variable. It's pretty self-explanatory. This is the most common variable. It can be reassigned, but only accessed within a function. You don't really need to know kind of what that means yet. Variables defined with var move to the top of the code when the top of the code is executed. We really don't use this anymore in JavaScript. It's not necessarily that safe, just because there's other ways we can declare variables or create variables like let and const. So let and const, similar to const, the let variable can be reassigned but not redeclared, and the const variable can be reassigned and not accessible before they appeared within the code. So var, let, and const are reserved keywords in JavaScript. You can't use them for anything else. You can't decide to call something else const or let, like they're reserved keywords in JavaScript. So let's go over here and just kind of talk about variables. Variables. So we can declare variables, declaring. So these are some notes. Oh. All right. So if I go back here, there's three ways to declare variables, var, let, and const. Let's go down. So there's a specific syntax on how to declare a variable and assign a value to it. So var x equals hello world, let number in alpha equals 26. These are just random variables. Then const earth gravity equals 9.807. So we call let is a keyword that instantiates, you'll hear that word as well, instantiates or creates a new variable. Num in alpha is the name of the variable. So you'd be like, hey, what's the variable name? You'll hear that. And you must give a name, you must give a variable a name. And then followed by an equal signs. So we're assigning the name of this variable to equal 26. And so 26 is the value of that variable. So if we go into here, we can say like let dozen equal 12, var greeting equals welcome to Bootcamp Prep. And then const pi equals 3.14159 something. Yeah. So we can I'm going to comment that out. And if you need to know how to comment out things really quickly, it's command / So if I log that, nothing logs out to the screen, nothing logs out to the console because I'm not console logging anything. So if I wanted to console log the value of pi, I can pass in the variable name into the console.log and it'll display it right here. I can easily do dozen and greeting. So why would you use, so as I said before, var is kind of deprecated. So I'll kind of show you what var does. So if I wanted to redeclare var greeting and say it's July 7th, and I output, so I'm commenting this code out so it doesn't run when I click this run button. So when I console log greeting, and I've got two variables named greeting, it's only going to declare, or it's going to output the most recent greeting variable. So, but now if I wanted to write let dozen, so I'm going to comment that out. And if I wanted to just get rid of that. Can you all see that? Should I zoom in? Can you see that? Is that better?
That's good.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's better.
Thank you. So if I wanted to redeclare dozen to like say like 10 and I run this, it throws an error. And that's why we use let, because we've already declared the variable name dozen once on line 9. We can't use the word dozen again throughout my program. So I can't redeclare it dozen again. It says syntax error identifier dozen has already been declared. So it's like, okay, I have to call that something else. Let's call it 10. And then with const, not only can you not redeclare const, like, so I can't do const pi equals 2.14. I can't do that already, but I can't even reassign the value of pi to something else. So if I try to do that, it'll run an error. See, it says assignment to constant variable. If I wanted to reassign it, I can use let. Let allows me to reassign it. But we'll get to that later. I just want to cover that real quick. All right. What questions do you have up until this point? No questions?
But were you getting into console out later?
No, I don't think I've ever used console out before.
Oh.
There's all kinds of, there's console dot error, there's console dot table. I usually use console dot log for everything in this specific court. Someone said, what's the semicolon about? So the semicolon, like here, in a lot of JavaScript, it'll tell you to put a semicolon, and I usually do, but going forward, JavaScript is one of the only languages that has a semicolon. So JavaScript in ES6 was pretty much like, hey, you don't necessarily need, you don't need a semicolon after every, not every line of code, but essentially after every declaration anymore.
Well, maybe I asked the wrong question. The areas where you said you didn't want to run, what do you call that again?
Oh, over here? Wait.
Yeah, with the 2 slashes. Yeah, just like it looks right now.
Oh, this part?
How?
What is that?
Yeah. You changed it, yeah.
Yep. So I'm literally just commenting it out. So I'm like
commenting it out.
Yep, sorry. So yeah,
I'm sorry, I said it wrong.
Nope. You're good.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm commenting out the code because I don't want it to run. And I might want to add some notes in there, something like that.
Will you be getting into that later? Because you just went too fast and I didn't see how you did that.
Oh, the comment out?
Yeah.
So it's literally just command / on.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like, it's literally just here. I just don't want it to run it right now. It has nothing to do, I'm not running the code or anything like that. It does not affect my machine at all.
That's all I was looking for. Great. Thank you very much.
Yep, no problem. All right. All right. So now let's talk about data types. You've seen me write some numbers on the screen in here, and you've seen me write like here and here. Like this is, it's like, okay, you've seen me use these little parentheses, or I'm sorry, quotation marks here, as well as like double quotations here. So it's like, what is this? What am I actually writing? So let's get into data types. And we'll take a break in about 5 minutes after we get through data types. So there's numerous data types. There's numbers, so like age is 34. There's what is called strings or text, but it's really, they're called strings. So if something looks like text, that has quotes, like if you're writing something like a greeting, it's called a string. And there's 3 ways to write strings. Go back. There's double quotes. So my name is Tom, and I could put Tom in double quotes. That's how you declare a string, that this Tom is in fact a string. There's single quotes, and then there's also backticks right here. So the backtick is the key to the left of the 1 on your keyboard. It's called a backtick. And those are, to use backticks, it's very specific of why we use those, and we'll get to that in the future. So let's just kind of go through some data types. Oh no, like numbers. So we have like let age equals 34. So 34 is a data type. And there's a way that we can test what type of data. So if I type age, if I run this, it'll just say 34. But I'm able to test what type of data type this is. There's a built-in keyword, essentially, I can type and it will tell me what data type is age. So if I do type of all one word, it's a reserved keyword that tells me the type of data type of age. So what type of data type is age, did I say? Someone can speak up. A number, right?
Number. Yeah.
So if I run this, it's not going to print 34. It's going to say what type of data type is age. And it's a number. And now I don't want to get into once we get into null and arrays, the type of doesn't work as well, but we'll get into that. Now we can get into strings. So you'll want to use strings like if someone's like, hey, I need to know your first name, or I want you to output your first and last name. I can be like, let first name equals Tom. I can say last name, or I'll say middle name. Middle name equals Anthony. So the string, I've got this single quote and double quote. They're the exactly same thing. I can do console log first name last name. Let's move that down. I'm going to comment out the number and run that. Uh-oh, last name is not defined. Oh, it's because I used middle name. So notice I've got an error here. It came down, it ran my code. It came down. JavaScript code reads top to bottom, just like you're reading like a textbook. Came down here, it declared first name equals Tom, middle name equals Anthony. Now it goes to console log. I'm console logging the first name over here. Then it goes to console log this last name, and the computer doesn't know like what's the last name. So it goes reference error, last name is not defined. And it kind of tells me exactly where it's last name not defined at index.js. So I'm in my index.js file, line 22 and 13 spaces in. So I can say line 22, which is right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 right here. So it's like, okay. So now I can just middle name and execute that. Thomas Anthony. And now, so those are strings. The reason why you want to use double quotes. So if I want to do, say like, if I wanted, let's say, let's address equals, let's say it's like, or like say plural sentence. I can say like Tom's, I don't know, Tom's phone. And if I wanted to do like Tom's phone, so if I'm using like a plural sentence that needs a parentheses, if I want to make something like plural or anything like that, if I run that, it's going to throw an error. It's like unexpected identifier. So this is why you kind of want to use double quotes in set cases like this. So in the previous one, it'll look at, all right, here's the first quote, or what is it? First single quote. And then it's going to be like anything in here until it reaches a closing single quote. And it'll just think, hey, right here is the string. So anything outside of here, it doesn't know what it is. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. The computer doesn't know how to read that. And so it throws like a syntax error. But if I use double quotes, it looks at, okay, and I've got a beginning, an opening double quotes. And now I'm going to look through here and find the closing double quotes. Okay, here it is, right there. So it's going to ignore this single quote. So I can console log plural sentence. And there goes Tom's phone. The next data type is what is known as Booleans, or a Boolean value. Boolean value is literally just true or false. So it's literally just true or false. So I can say down here, Booleans, I can say let is tired. So is Tom tired? So I'm declaring a variable literally called is Tom tired. When you declare variables, they can't have spaces like that or anything like that. You shouldn't declare a variable like this. This is known as snake case. You want it to look like a camel with a humps, so it's called camel case. So when you're declaring a variable that just is Tom tired and equals false, I can use a closing semicolon there. I can use it. I'm gonna start using semicolons just. So yeah. So I can console log is Tom tired. It's going to say false. I can check the type of is Tom tired, and it's a Boolean. And I can also do it up here with the Tom's phone and see what it looks type of. So Tom's phone right here, the type of, it's a string, and down here, it's a Boolean value. Let is hot out. I can set that to true. I can say is hot out. So if I run this, it's going to come down here, declare is Tom tired, declare is hot out, and it's going to console log is Tom tired, which is false. And then it's going to console log is hot out, and then that value is true. So that's another data type. What questions do you have about numbers, Booleans, and strings?
Yeah, nothing yet, Tom.
Cool. All right, let's get through this and then we'll take a break. Then there's undefined is another data type. It's explicitly undefined when a variable has been declared, but no value has been assigned to it yet. So I can declare a variable. So let's, so what's like baby name. So, you know, I have friends, they're about to have their first child, but they have yet to declare, they don't know the name of their baby yet. They have yet to find a name for it yet. So the baby's, right now, the baby's value is undefined. So I can console log baby name and execute that, and it'll say undefined up here. And notice how it's in like, it's grayed out. That's just kind of how undefined works. So, so the variable has been declared, but no value has been assigned to it yet. Now we can get into null. N-U-L-L means there explicitly is no value to that variable. So I'm going to go down in null. And I can say, what's something that doesn't have any value to it? I don't know, hype. So like Sting's last name. I'm sure he has a last name, but like the artist name Sting or Prince or Cher. Whoop, don't do that. I can console log Sting's last name. I'm going to comment out lines 33 and 34, and I can run that and do that. Then so the value is null, or it doesn't have a value. That's what you could say. I also say no value, null. All right. Those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 data types we've gone through. Let's go through 2 more and let's take a break. Now we're getting into a little more complex data types. This one is known as an array or a list. So arrays are in many programming languages. They're pretty much everywhere as well. So it's literally just a list that stores values. So it can store multiple variables, it can store multiple numbers, it can store multiple combination of data types. So example, let tech companies or techcos equals, so it's declaring a variable called techcos equals, and it's the open bracket, that's how you initiate, start an array. It's got this open bracket followed by the list of values separated by a comma, like right here. And then at the end, when you close out the list or to close out the array, we have a closing bracket. So let me see. I'm gonna mute. So, so we can go to arrays. Arrays you're going to see a lot in programming. So I can say let techcos. I'm going to should have copied this over. So over here, I've got an array called techcos. I've got an equal. I've got an open bracket, and now I've got 4 strings. So I've got a string called apple, followed by a comma separated, followed by a string of Facebook, separated by a comma, followed by Microsoft, comma separated, followed by Google. And now at the end of the string, or at the end of the array, I want to close it out with a closing bracket. So I can console log techcos and execute that. And now I've got an array with Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Google. Again, these are just values. These can be numbers, they can be Boolean, they could be anything. They could be a nested array. So let's look at this. So I've got another list or another array called, let's call it sum array. And opening it, I've got a string value of high, followed by the number 32, then followed by another array. So this is known as a nested array. It's an array that exists within another array. And then followed by an undefined value or undefined data type. So I can console log sum array. And here we go. I've got high, 32, another array, and undefined. I'm going to console log that. Now, there's very specific ways. So we have this array called tech companies or techcos. I'm able to access each individual value at these specific indexes. So an index is just a location within the array. So arrays start at index 0 and move up from that. So the value at index 0 of tech companies is Apple. The index of 2, the value at index 2 or index 1 is Facebook, index 2, Microsoft, index 3, Google. So I can access those specific indexes by doing console log, calling techcos, and then open brackets and closing brackets, and declaring that specific value at that index. So I'm grabbing the entire list of tech companies array, I'm grabbing the techcos array, and right here I'm doing open brackets and followed by the index 0 and closing brackets. And the value of this should just be Apple. So there it is. So the value at index 0 is Apple, and I can just keep doing that. Index 1, index 2, index 3. So it should be Apple, Facebook, Microsoft. Does anybody have any questions about arrays?
Yeah, real quick, Tom, sorry to interrupt. So like that second array, sum array, with the last index being undefined, if you were to print that out in the console log, it would just print out undefined then?
Yep, so let's go ahead and do that. That's console log, sum array. I comment that out. Sum array, and what index is this? What number is it?
What was that, the third?
Yep, so 0,
3.
1, 2, 3. Cool. So there, I run that, it'll say undefined right here.
Okay, all right. I think I just confused myself with undefined, which is pretty much just like a placeholder, right? Within a certain, I guess the array, like right here for this example.
I wouldn't call it a placeholder. Yeah, I mean, I guess in this example, you can call it a placeholder. But I wouldn't use the term placeholder. I would just say, hey, the value is currently undefined.
Okay. I'll be like saving it for another time down your program for like that value.
Yep. So with that, so as you said, like somewhere down the line, we want some value is going to exist here. So we can actually assign values at specific indexes. So I can say sum array at index 3 equals, so I'm saying, hey, the value at index 3, let's make it say value at index 3. And if I run that, nothing's going to show up except, well, whatever. But if I actually access this again, so I initially console log value index 3, it's initially undefined, and then I reassign the value at index 3 to equal value at index 3, and then I'm going to console log, essentially re-console log it and see what it comes out. So, yep, it's initially undefined, now the value at index 3.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That clears up some things. Thanks.
Cool, no problem.
Good.
All right. Let's go ahead and take a 6-minute break. Be back at 7:12, and we'll go ahead and just keep going.